Proteins are one of the four most important biomolecules that are present in the human body. They're also organic molecules. So proteins are made up of five important elements, namely carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and they also contain some amount of sulfur. So these are the four major elements, but proteins also contain some amounts of sulfur. Now proteins are also known as macromolecules or polymers because they are made up of many repeating units called monomers. So all the proteins are actually made up of small repeating units called amino acids. So amino acids are the monomers or building blocks for proteins. So this is the basic structure of amino acid. As we can see, there is a central carbon atom and carbon is bonded to four different groups. The first group is hydrogen, and then we have an amino group. So NH2 in chemistry is called as the amino group. To one end of the carbon we have this amino group. On the other side we have the carboxylic acid. So C double bond O OH refers to a carboxylic acid in chemistry. So these are the two important functional groups that are present in all the amino acids. The fourth group is usually designated as R because this is highly variable. So this is the portion of amino acid that is different from one amino acid to the other. This is also called as the side chain of amino acid. And depending on the group that is present here, the properties of amino acids differ. So amino acids are broadly categorized into four categories. We have acidic amino acids, we have basic amino acids. So acidic amino acids are acidic because of their R group, while basic amino acids are basic because of the R group structure that they possess. Additionally, amino acids can either be water loving, which are called polar amino acids, or they can be non-polar, which are the amino acids that do not interact with water. So it is basically the side chain or the R group that determines what will be the nature of the amino acid. As discussed, amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. Amino acids have to unite to form a particular protein. In the human body, we have around 170 to 200 different amino acids. It is estimated that we have somewhere around 180 to 200 different types of amino acids. And all these amino acids only differ in the R group. It is this group that basically distinguishes one amino acid from the other. Even though we have this many different amino acids, it has been shown that only 20 different amino acids are required to form all the proteins in the human body. Many recent studies have shown that this is actually 22 and not 20. So till now it has been shown that there are only 20 different amino acids. However, recent research has shown that this number is actually 22. So we only need 22 amino acids to form all the different proteins that are there in the human body or also in other organisms. The amino acids that help to produce the proteins are classified in two major categories. We have the essential amino acids and the other are non-essential amino acids. Non-essential amino acids are those that can be produced by the human body. So these amino acids the body can itself produce. However, we have around 11 essential amino acids that are not produced by the human body. As the human body is not able to produce these 11 essential amino acids, they should be obtained from the diet. They should be obtained from our diet. So we have a total of 11 essential amino acids that the body cannot produce and must therefore be obtained from the diet. These are the essential amino acids. Both these classes of amino acids together are responsible for producing a lot of proteins that help to support muscle growth, repair, and all the other various functions in the human body. Milk, eggs, and meat products like poultry and fish are usually considered as complete sources of protein. So, whenever we consume these foods, our body can get all the essential amino acids that it requires to produce the proteins. So, these are usually called as complete sources of protein. We also have quinoa and soy or soybean based products, which are also good sources of these essential amino acids. So these are also considered complete sources of protein, because when we consume, we are essentially getting all the 11 essential amino acids. So all the essential and non-essential amino acids are together required to produce proteins. So individual amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins, are joined together by covalent bond called peptide bond. So we have peptide bonds here that connect each amino acid together with the surrounding amino acid. So amino acids are basically joined together by peptide bonds to form a polypeptide chain that folds into unique three-dimensional structure. So every protein has to fold into a specific shape, which is called the three-dimensional shape. So this shape will differ from protein to protein, and it is highly dependent on the sequence of amino acids. The three-dimensional structure into which a protein molecule folds is absolutely essential for it to carry out its specific function. Now, proteins are the most diverse biomolecules in the human body, as they carry out a wide variety of functions. Let us look into some of their key functions here. The first major function of proteins is as enzymes. So enzymes are biocatalysts that help to speed up the rate of chemical reactions. So we have a lot of enzymes in the human body, and all the enzymes are basically proteins. They help to catalyze and accelerate the rate of biochemical reactions. Some key examples of enzymes in the human body are discussed here. So first is pepsin and trypsin. So these proteins are called proteases. Pepsin and trypsin are proteases that help to break down the proteins into amino acids. Pepsin operates in the stomach while trypsin operates in the small intestine. Both of them have an important role to break down proteins into amino acids, which the body can utilize for a range of functions. Another important enzyme is amylase that is present in the saliva as well as in the small intestine. So amylase helps to break down the carbohydrates or carbs present in our food into maltose. So maltose is a disaccharide that is made up of 2 units of glucose. So amylase helps to break down carbohydrates or carbs into maltose, which can again be converted into glucose. All the enzymes are highly specific to their substrates. All the enzymes that we have show high specificity to their substrate. All enzymes contain what is known as an active site. And it is at the active site of an enzyme into which a specific substrate can come and bind into. This is analogous to lock and a key. A key can only fit into a specific lock. So the enzymes here can be considered as the lock, whereas the substrate that it binds is the key. So this is also known as the lock and key mechanism. This structural compatibility will ensure that enzymes can only catalyze specific chemical reactions in the human body. So let us understand the functioning of enzymes, taking maltase as an example. So maltase, as we discussed, is an digestive enzyme that acts on maltose and breaks it into two molecules of glucose. So this is the function of the enzyme maltase. So if you look here in the image, maltase has an active site that can fit a molecule of maltose. The active site of maltase is in such a shape that it can only fit two molecules of glucose. The binding of the substrate maltose to enzyme forms what is known as an enzyme substrate complex. This reaction also involves the addition of a water molecule to break the bond that is holding the two glucose molecules together. Once maltase has carried out the reaction, the glucose molecules can now be released into the bloodstream. The enzyme is now free and it is able to carry out the breakdown of more molecules of maltose. So all the enzymes operate in a similar way, where they can only bind to a specific substrate and carry out its breakdown. Enzymes are essential for all the biochemical pathways, and they either facilitate the synthesis or the breakdown of biomolecules. So in this case, we have seen carbohydrate as an example. Amylase is the first enzyme in the pathway that will break down starch into maltose, and maltose can be acted upon by maltase. So maltase is usually found in the brush border cells of the small intestine. Next one, we have transport proteins. So we do have a couple of proteins in the human body that help in transport of molecules. So one important example is hemoglobin, which is present in the red blood cells, and it helps to transport oxygen throughout the human body. So hemoglobin is a classical example of a transport protein in the human body. Apart from hemoglobin, we have transferrin. This is a protein that helps to transport iron in the bloodstream. So transferrin is a transport protein that helps to transport iron. Similarly, we have aquaporins and glucose transporters in the cell membrane. Aquaporins are proteins in the cell membrane that help in the movement of water across the cell membrane. So movement of water also requires some specific transport proteins. Similarly, glucose transporters, which are commonly known as GLUTs, are also present in the cell membrane that helps in the movement of glucose into the cells of the body. So these are important transport proteins present in the cell membrane. So the next class is hormones. Most of the hormones in the human body are again basically proteins. So hormones are chemical messengers that are transported in the bloodstream, and they help in the coordination of body activities. So some key examples of hormonal proteins include insulin and glucagon. So these are two important proteins that are secreted by the pancreas, and they help to control the blood sugar levels. So some other key examples of protein hormones include follicle stimulating hormone. Follicle stimulating hormone, or which is otherwise designated as FSH, is a protein hormone that is produced by the pituitary glands. So this hormone, which is produced by the pituitary gland, helps in the maturation of sperms in testes and the eggs which are present in the ovaries. Another important protein hormone is prolactin. So prolactin is a hormone that is important for the development of mammary glands in women, and it also plays a key role in the production of milk by mammary glands. So prolactin is also a protein hormone. So one final example is vasopressin. It is also known as antidiuretic hormone, ADH. So vasopressin is a protein that helps to regulate the body's water balance. So apart from insulin and glucagon, these are some more examples of proteins that function as hormones in the human body. So another function of proteins is in structure. Collagen and elastin are two important proteins that are found in the connective tissues, tendons, and ligaments. So these two proteins provide structural support and strength for all these tissues. Another important example is keratin, which is usually found in nails, hair, horns, and feathers. So this is also an important structural protein which is found in animals. So these are three examples of proteins that function for maintaining the structure. Next important class of proteins are the storage proteins. Two important examples of storage proteins are casein, which is found in the milk, and ovalbumin, which is the abundant protein in the egg whites. So both these proteins are an important source of amino acids that is essential for the growth of embryo. Similarly, we also have storage proteins called globulins in the seeds of the plant, and these also play an important role in the seed germination. Proteins also have an important role in defense or defending the human body. Antibodies are the defensive proteins that are produced by our immune system, and they help to fight against the foreign pathogens. So pathogen can be a bacteria, a virus, or any other foreign body that attacks the human system. So antibodies are defensive proteins that help to neutralize or kill the pathogens. So the pathogen is normally known as a antigen. Similar to the lock and key mechanism that we discussed earlier for enzymes, antibodies are also highly specific to the antigens that they can bind. In this case, the antibody or antibodies can be considered as the lock to which an antigen molecule can bind. So antigen becomes the key, whereas antibodies are the lock. So this is the basic structure of an antibody molecule, which are basically proteins. Antibodies are also made up of amino acids. So all the antibodies contain an antigen binding site, and antigen binding site for an antibody is only specific to one particular antigen. Even if there are multiple antigens around in its vicinity, it can only bind to its specific antigen. Mother's milk is also a very good source of antibodies, and this helps the baby from infections and is also playing an important role in the development of the infant's immune system. So the last class of proteins are known as receptor proteins. Receptor proteins. So these are a special class of proteins that are located on the cell membrane. So the cell membrane is made up of proteins and lipids, and some of the proteins that are located on the cell membrane function as receptor proteins. So these proteins actually function by binding to a specific ligand molecule. So the molecule to which a receptor protein will bind is known as a ligand. A ligand can be any molecule that can bind to a receptor protein on the cell membrane. Now, once the ligand binds to a receptor, this will initiate a specific cellular response. So binding of a ligand molecule to a receptor protein will initiate a signaling pathway in the cells on which they have bound. A best example for this can be seen in neurons. So at the nerve endings, chemical molecules called neurotransmitters are released. So the molecules that are there here are actually known as neurotransmitters, and they are produced by this neuron into a tiny gap which is called a synapse. A synapse is a microscopic gap between the nerve endings of the first neuron to the dendrites of the second neuron. So the neurotransmitters which are released into this synapse bind to receptor proteins on the adjacent neuron. And when they bind to receptors, they initiate a specific cellular response in the adjacent neuron. So this is one example of receptor proteins binding to a ligand. A ligand here is a neurotransmitter. So another example can be seen in the case of insulin. Now insulin is a protein hormone. So insulin is also a ligand that binds to specific receptor proteins on the cell surface. When insulin binds to receptors on the cell membrane, a specific cellular response is initiated in the cell on which it has bound. So these are receptor proteins. They also play a key role in cell-to-cell communication, as we can see in the case of neurons, where they are helping the transmission of information from one neuron to the next neuron. So these are some of the key functions of proteins that are present in the human body and their different classes. If you have liked the video, please do share it with your friends.